Billy Morris would set the pace by claiming the pole for the 30-lap Grand Stock event. Worth Red had another great qualifying lap and would start from the number 2 spot. At the green, Red would get the jump and lead lap 1 as Morris started to work the line outside. The top 2 would go door-to-door on lap 3 when the first of 5 cautions fell for Donnie Clatterbuck and Bubba Hubbard and Raymond Pittman Jr. colliding in turn 4. Again, under green, Morris worked the high line, and 2 laps later, the 05 took command. Lap 9 brought yellow to the 1/3 mile oval again as Alan Marshall, Ken Kirby made contact in turn 4. With the green back in the air was Morris again leaving the fight for second on back. Points leader Glenn Jarman and John Eversole would have a great battle going on for the 4th spot when caution fell again. Ken Kirby climbed the front stretch wall coming off turn 4, sending his ride upside down, sliding and then erupting into a ball of flame from a leaking fuel cell. This time, crews and officials worked together to extinguish the flame and pull the driver to safety. Kirby was shaken but unscathed. Halfway through and already plenty of excitement, green flag racing returned, but only for a short stint as Bill McGonigle's motor let go in turn 1. After several bags of stay dry and many caution laps, it was green once more. Caution continued to plague the racing even after officials gave strong words of advice to the Grand Stockers during a driver's meeting. Morris would stay clean to the end and pick up win number 9. Red held second. Eversole would take third with Robbie Langford 4th and Jim Thacker 5th. Billy Morris, Mr. Morris, another exciting night, another winner. You will kiss me again. This guy loves me because every time I show up out here with the crew, he wins. Billy, another great run.
Yeah, it was a good run. I tell you, there's a lot of excitement out there. Guys turning upside down and people going down to the infield. I tell you, it was a mess. But the guys run a real good, hard race. I tell you, it was Worth got to jump on me there, and we had a good, clean race, and it was good racing going on.
One more to go. You gonna win the last one?
Oh, I don't know about that. Last race of the season, you know them guys are going to be doing everything they can to do what, to win. And we're going to be out there trying to do what we can do. And, if we get lucky, we'll do that.
Billy Morris, 9 wins of the '94 season in the Grand Stock Series. This is a look at your points with 1 week of racing excitement left for the Grand Stocks. The next to last Charger race for '94 kicked off with Chris Mull and LaValle Balduck holding the front row. Mull would lead lap 1, but Balduck took the low line and took lap 2. Tommy Tatum would slide his way into the 2nd spot 2 laps later as Mull continued to use the higher lane. Cars were skidding, sliding, and spinning everywhere on the track, and caution finally came on lap 8, tightening the field. With 12 laps completed under green, the top 3 were only separated by a car length. Cliff McDaniel was 4th, and Thomas Stinson driving the number 5 car due to last week's hard crash chasing in 5th. With only one other caution falling on lap 17, the top 5 held their spots and finished in that order. Val, another feature win out here at Southside, about an 18-point lead going into the final event. No mistakes, and it's all yours.
18 points is not all over yet. Next week we got a 40-lap race. It's going to be a tough one.
Comments from the winners of tonight's event, LaValle Balduck.
Thank you.
Now here's a look at your points tightening up going into the final event for 1994. With time running out in the '94 season, Shane Lockhart has no intentions of losing his point advantage. He proved so tonight by claiming the top starting spot for the late model 100-lap feature. Outside pole setter Wayne Patterson wouldn't make it easy for Lockhart, and the 2 raced side by side for the first 2 circuits, with Patterson taking the lead as the field took the first caution flag for Lynn O'Neill's spin in turn 1. At lap 25, Patterson was still out front, but had Lockhart only inches off his rear deck, while Brandon Butler and second place points runner Eddie Johnson ran side by side for third, 10 car lengths back. By lap 35, the front runners were dealing with heavy traffic as they started to lap slower cars. Lap 42 brought yellow to the field for David Goad's slide and slam into the turn 1 wall. Goad and Rocky Robbins had made contact on the front stretch, tearing Robbins' sheet metal and bending Goad's ride beyond repair. The field will get the halfway sign under caution and return to green on the next lap. It was Patterson, Lockhart, and Johnson 1, 2, 3, and only separated by a few feet. On lap 58, turn 1 became the problem spot once more, this time for Chris Dodson and David Morrison. Back to green and back to caution as Robbins, Ryan Farmer, and Ricky Johnson bent up their rides going through turns 1 and 2. There would just be over 30 laps to decide the 100-lapper when the racing went back to green. With 10 laps remaining, it was Patterson's W.O. Grubb Chevy showing the way by 2 car lengths over Lockhart, who was getting pressure from Johnson. Lockhart had turned it up for the final sprint to the finish, but couldn't get by determined Patterson. Patterson wins the event, continuing his dominant September. Lockhart takes second, clinching the 94 title. Johnson claims third, and Brantlin Butler took fourth. Well, Mr. September is what they're calling you. No doubt it's been a dominating September for you, Wayne. Another fine run. The high line and the low line worked for you tonight.
Well, I tell you, we had talked there late in the race. He said, well, what do you think about going to the top? And I said, well, I think we kicked the bleeder a little too high for that tonight because I'd already tried it, and I really couldn't get a real good bite up there like I usually could. So we just had to stay down and protect that bottom tonight, and the way the cautions came, it worked out fine for us.
Well, you can continue it right into October?
Well, I sure hope so. We got some big races coming up. We got Martinsville tomorrow. I'll be there, and then Orange County tomorrow night. It's been a tough 2 days. I've been at Martinsville running back and forth to the shop and back to Martinsville, back home, back up there again. So hopefully tomorrow will turn out good for us, and we can come back, and we're going to take this car here to Orange County tomorrow night. And, the guys up there will see a little bit different kind of car up there than we've been normally running, but I think it'll do the job.
Wayne Patterson continues his dominance during the September months. Here are your point standings going to the final event for 1994. The important issues of the 1994 season. We let the drivers and the chief track steward, Gary Fox, take a look at these issues, and we're sending it up right now to Yvonne. He's up in the luxury suite in the main straightaway grandstand with Gary. They're going to talk about the 1994 issues, some very important ones.
Thanks, Freddie. I'm here with Gary Fox, track steward at Southside Speedway, which many of you know. And what we're going to plan to do in this 30-minute show, besides the highlights, is try to bring the two philosophies, that of the drivers and the officials, together and let you make an opinion on what can be done to improve or keep the same. Keeping that in mind, Gary, there seems to be some concern arose when I was talking with the guys in the pits, Freddie and myself, about the lack of officials in the pits, both for pre- and post-game racing. Take a look at this video here. Some of the drivers and team owners talk about this situation.
Now, heck, they got plenty of officials here. They just got to get tough. I'm going to tell you. And it's not only at this track, it's at all the rest of them. When you see something wrong, don't just set them down. Get in their wallet. Set them out for a race or two. Hey, they'll cut it out. You'll see some good side-by-side racing. None of this stuff of getting taken out, spun out under caution. It'll all be gone. The fans will get their money's worth. The competitors won't have as much money to spend, and it'll be better shows put on at this racetrack.
I think they try to do a good job, and I think they probably try to do too good of a job. They try not to hurt anybody's feelings. They hate to make a call, and that's the whole problem. You have to make a call whenever something goes on the track. And if you got to make somebody mad and send somebody home for a week or two, do it. If it's us, fine. Make a precedent and send somebody home whenever they go out and do some crazy stuff like oil the track down or any of that dumb stuff that they're doing now. But I like all the officials, but my main problem is they try to be too nice and they won't make a call.
Well, I mean, you could be out here all day, with a group of officials, 10 or 12 or more, and they can spend all day looking at the cars, but it's just not practical to do that. Those guys are out here to have a good time, too. It's not like they're making a big career of it or anything like that. We're just thankful for what they do.
My biggest thing with officials are they don't have enough of them. They only got 2 tech peoples for all divisions. It used to be, up until last year, I think it was, they had 2 tech officials for every division. When I was in charges for years, we had 2 tech officials. And I think that's the way it should be. You need enough tech officials that can check something on every car in each division every week.
Gary, are there enough officials? Do we need more? Will the budget allow for more?
Well, there's never enough officials. When you've got 70 race cars, 80 race cars at a track, and you've got a short time frame like on a Friday evening, we always feel like we could always have 1 or 2 more that would help us out. At the beginning of the year, we obviously realized we had a shortfall in trying to do some things that we'd implemented with the tire deal and some other things. So we knew then that we needed to hire some more people, and Joe allowed me to pick up 2 more officials. Next year, there's talk about adding a couple more. It's very difficult to have your officials trying to watch a race and inspect after a race at the same time, and then get everybody out of here at a decent hour. You know, the drivers and crews and their wives and family want to go home. Our guys want to do a good job, but there are time constraints. If we had more officials, yeah, it would definitely help. As far as a budget, I can't say that there's a real budget. I go to the promoter, I need help, and Joe Baldassy's been pretty good about granting us most of our wishes, although, you know, he does scratch his head a little bit and say, how much is it going to cost me now? So, you know, I don't want to bankrupt the bank either at the same time.
Gary, through the season, complaints came from the pits that officials were inconsistent in making calls for the races, as well as team owners and drivers being able to persuade the officials to a final call. Take a look.
The officials that we have, at least go over them, go over with them all the rules, and then maybe all of them understand the same thing. Because even though you have an official here in turns 3 and 4, and you got one up there in 1 and 2, you got them on the front stretch, you got them up in the tower. You know, this man down here, if he sees something, if he doesn't tell them what he sees, or if it's somebody he knows and he doesn't want to say anything, then some other guy gets a shaft. And only reason I say that is because 2 weeks ago they had an accident in 1 and 2, and I wasn't even involved in it. I cleared it. I went to the infield and went around it, and I was put in the rear. So I figure I was put in the rear for not being in it.
A couple of weeks ago, they only checked the top 2, and, you know, further back I think's where the problems were. But there's real inconsistencies in the, you know, checking the cars out, keeping them all even, and, you know, policing it the way that they should. I just think they're kind of tired and they want to go home.
It might be just the teamwork. You know, every division out here, every car out here has got a team. And if it don't gel and don't work together, it just don't work. And I think that's what the problem is. You know, these guys just might not gel together. But maybe what they need to do is have like a meeting right after the driver's meeting. Say, oh, okay, you know, we need to check this on each car tonight.
Gary, are all the officials on the same page, if you know what I mean? And if so, how could this be misconstrued?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that some of the officials get here later than others because of their jobs and the responsibilities they have outside and away from the racetrack. And a lot of times they get here and they're looking around and asking some of the other officials, what's going on, where are we, as far as time trials, inspections, and this type of things. I have one person who basically oversees a majority or most all of my inspections, that being John Christianberry. John is sort of like my lead tech official. I have 2 other tech officials that work with him, in Butch Lassiter and Kenny Lee. John is the one that sets up what we're going to check at night, unless there's something I've specifically asked him, hey, take a look at this car, you know, throughout the course of the evening. John then comes to me after the inspections and says, Gary, so-and-so car is wrong. I come back and I don't even have to see it, and I tell John, do what's right, do what you're supposed to do. And he'll go back and tell the car owner or the driver that he's been disqualified at that point if that's what the outcome of the deal is at that time. As far as the officials, we have a wide variety of officials doing different things. I've got 2 on the flag stand that do flagging. They don't do tech work. I've got 1 that's like a pit steward that works on a racetrack lining up cars. He also helps with some of the safety inspections when he gets here earlier in the evening. We have various others that work in the pits and some that work in the corners. So to get a team to gel, it takes some time. This is our first year with most of these guys who work together. This is the first year that I've been with their chief steward. So some of the shortcomings may have been on my end, trying to get them to gel as a team and maybe produce the quality of what I want. Not that they're not trying and not that they're not doing a good job. There is a perception sometimes and hearsay, well, they didn't look at this guy, but they looked at this guy. A lot of those people don't know. A lot of those people don't know that these guys have already been there and they've looked at some of them. And there's a lot of time a guy feels like, well, they picked on me, but they didn't look at this guy. This guy, drivers get here late too. And when the drivers are late, something might have happened 30 minutes ago that they don't know about. Now all of a sudden they're looking at him. Well, I didn't see you go to these other guys. Well, you were late, bud. You know, so it's sort of I can see it's a 50-50 deal. You know, maybe a little lack of effort sometimes on our part, not intentionally so, and then a little lack of maybe cooperation sometimes with the driver's part. And I'm not trying to pin any blame on either side. I think it's a shared responsibility when you look at trying to run a racetrack as a whole.
Don't go away, because when we come back, Gary and I will talk about favoritism at the track and are the officials tough enough. Gary, is there pressure coming from team owners, the gate, maybe even the promoter, as to who gets suspensions, who gets a black flag, or if there's a fine even levied on a particular driver or a team for some infraction on a particular night? Consider maybe some of these drivers are so-called the big money drivers. In other words, they bring in the large crowds. Some drivers seem to think so.
And not taking away, anything from the officials, but you got guys that have been racing out here for a long time, and they bring a lot of fans, and fans pays the bills and packs the seats. And, if one guy does something that the officials don't like and they throw him out, then they're not going to make him mad. They're going to lose a lot of ticket sales. And you got to really be cautious of who you throw out and, who you black flag and who you penalize. And it's a risky business. I wouldn't want to do it, but like you hear every week, right is right and wrong is wrong, and you can only take so much.
Well, I feel like that everybody cries, so the officials, they get hard on you. They look a little harder at your stuff than they do other people's. I think they let a few things go too much. They don't stand on a rule. They have a lot of problem with this stuff of saying what they want and then turning around and giving it away, just giving it up because somebody argued a little too much or fussed a little too much. I feel like that goes on a fair amount, that it shouldn't be. I don't feel like they have anybody in the tower that stands firm and says, this is the way it is, you do it this way, or you get out.
Yes, sir. Yeah, well, they haven't bothered us one time this year. Last year, they were on us every week, so that shows you, if you're a dominant car, that they check you pretty thorough.
There seems to be a little problem here with, depending on who you are, sometimes they seem like the make one call on one person, don't make it on another. I've seen some inconsistencies, like on restarts. A lot of people jump at starts and they just let it go.
Gary, is there favoritism at the track? And could the track afford to go one night without the big money drivers, so-called, like Patterson, Johnson, the Harefield, the Lockharts, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, sure, we could go without them, and it has been done in the past, and there have been some tough calls that had to been made. We get no pressure from the promoter. The promoter has no idea until I tell him on Mondays what kind of suspension or fines have been levied against somebody. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is we have handled out several penalties this year. I don't typically go around and announce I did this to so-and-so. I mean, this guy's already out here in his race car. He's done something. I don't need to further embarrass him or his sponsor by saying he's been fined or he's been suspended. Now, if they want to tell it, that's up to them. But typically fines and some things go unnoticed by others because I don't share that information with anybody else. I go to Daytona on Monday mornings, I report what happens, I talk to Jerry Cook, who is the competitions administrator, and Jerry and I kind of meet on a common happy medium as to what we think the overall penalty should be. And then Jerry issues the penalty notice coming from me and the call that we made at the racetrack. Is there favoritism? No, there's no favoritism. I don't care who wins out here. I would just assume to see if it's a 20-car field and we run 20 races, 20 different guys win. It doesn't bother me. I don't care if it's a Ford or Chrysler or Chevrolet. I like to see different models and different drivers win. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out. You get 2 or 3 guys that are running real good in the division and get hooked up, and everybody else is fighting for second, third place on back. And that's unfortunate, but that's also fairly common at Southside Speedway. Some people just get dialed in better than others, and it's their year. And it makes it look like, well, this guy's won all the races, therefore he has now become the company car, so to speak. There's no company car.
Well, an important show tonight. You got to see all the interviews there with the drivers and the officials about the highlights from tonight, the year's events here at Southside Speedway. Some important issues they discussed. Hopefully 95 will be even a better season. And we'll be back next week for the finale at Southside Speedway. From Ashland Ford and all the people at Southside Speedway Illustrated, good night.
Southside Speedway Illustrated, brought to you by Ashland Ford Mercury, Minuteman Press, Buddy South Auto Parts, Tommy's Refrigeration, Wally's Precision Machine, Zimmer Heating and Air Conditioning, The Bear 104.7, and Rick Stanley Auto Body.